back. That means it's another episode of Square Grouper. I'm Fox, and this is my co-host Dave. Funny enough, we're kind of doing the episode and not really recording, so this late night session of Square Grouper might be an interesting one. Dave, what you got for us?
So pretty much, I think it's official now that Smart and Safe has gathered enough signatures to be on the ballot, so they have to fight the Ashley Moody lawsuit, Supreme Court review, past DeSantis's desk. They submitted 967,000, although they only needed 891,523, which is interesting. And then while that's going on, and they've dumped all that money into that, it looks like in Massachusetts they're planning on leaving the state. They're laying off, it says 90 employees here, some city in Mass.
Something about giving them a 30-day notice of termination or something like that?
Yeah, it's just a layoff all 128 employees. Just, leaving.
That's the state where that poor girl died, and that was technically the first documented OSHA death of cannabis, though really it could have been sawdust. It could have been anything without proper ventilation, and at some point when you reach a ratio that is less oxygen and more pollutant, contaminant, whatever, it's not going to be good if you're not wearing proper respirators. And for an MSO like that to operate in as many places that they do at the level that they do, it's still absolutely unexcusable that happened. If that had happened in Florida, there'd be people out there with pitchforks, like I'm telling you, they, I don't know what the scene is in Mass, but I know that did raise a lot of alarms.
Like some people get mad about it, like they don't believe it could happen, but you got to understand that who knows what they were doing in there, what kind of material they were processing. They might have been grinding up fucking everything.
It's still a job. It's a job that has many health risks. You've got electrical risk. You've got construction risk. People get the idea that you're just standing around a bunch of plants all day watering things. And I mean, that's literally one tiny piece of what you do. It's an important piece, but there's so much to be done where, you have to pay attention. You have to be trained in certain aspects, in food safety and OSHA regulation and certain things like that when you're working on that level.
It's like fucking up your lungs when you're washing hash.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a second because, so I'll kind of do the pawn thing and spread points like I did last time. So you've got a couple people that a lot of people essentially feel like you need to wear a respirator in washrooms like that. I don't ever want to say that you don't. Like, you probably should, especially if you're not used to that concentration of water-based terpenes, basically encapsulating the air that you're in a closed space. Depending on the terpene and the concentration of it, it could not necessarily be the healthiest for you. Now, I have this crazy theory that if you are immunocompromised in some way, or you have a hyper-dependent endocannabinoid system that has to be constantly fed, receptors that are so active, that's people that are like everyday heavy use, that aren't habitual users, that aren't recreational users, but do it every day. It's to hit certain points of relief, essentially, at certain, for whatever it is, more often with chronic illness, or something like cancer or, either physical or brain trauma based injury, where you see a lot of heavy consumption in cannabis. So now back to it. I think, and I know this because I've reached out to hash makers who are immunocompromised in certain ways or deal with certain chronic illnesses and still bust out the fire. But it's almost therapeutic to be in there. Whereas you have some people, you can get anything from hives to, your throat becoming itchy, or even you find it hard to breathe, which is sort of what we're talking about when like people, if you're doing with BHO, you're doing it for solvents and gases that you're bleeding out at certain times through the process in a C1D1 room, or, something to that effect. When you're doing with solventless hash or ice water hash or whatever you want to call it, you have volatile terpenes that are being pushed, out of the air, essentially being released into the air as you're agitating that material with ice and water. And for me personally, man, I feel great. I feel so good. But the thing is, too, I've been doing this such a long time that like I'm about like the second or third generation of like people who have been doing this longer than there's been testing for it. And so now there's an overlap where it's like, 20, 30 years from now, we're going to be the first, like, you see on the news, like, if you use this and, now you have osteoporosis or some stupid shit. Like, I'm almost expecting to see that down the line when it comes to certain products that have been used in the cannabis space, or certain things that have or haven't been done, on the commercial side of things for the first generation of legal cannabis, right? So there are also people that believe that there's certain people in certain areas of the world that are genetically more predisposed to a tolerance to everything I explained. So my friend, Future 4200, Dustin, good friend of mine, good life gang, shout out to him. We had this conversation briefly, and he's also talked about it on his page, where there's certain people, I believe, either from, I want to say Afghan or Hindu descent, that there's studies that show that groups of people in those certain mountainous areas are less susceptible to the allergies or the effects caused by, water volatile terpenes being released into the atmosphere, or, effects from the pollen of the plant itself, which is a whole nother thing. Some people will feel it instantly. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got to tell you, it's almost therapy when I sit in there and I can't even explain it. I don't suggest to do it. I don't suggest everyone do that, or anyone honestly do that. Take your health into your own regard. And there's a big difference whether like you're washing at home every now and then, every couple of months, like, less than 2, 5, 10,000 grams. Like, that's not, I'm talking about people that are washing, 100, 200, 300, 400,000 grams plus, within a week, within a month, within a cycle. That is your body being exposed to it for longer periods of times. On the wash days where I'm doing something, even a fraction of the weight that I just mentioned, it's a 12, 11-hour day, just solo processing, from start to finish, from dropping the material in the water to, finishing up and making sure that the trays are full, everything's set up, cleaned, reset to be done the next day. So it's interesting to hear when it comes from the hash side of it, why some people would suggest using respirators or not. In this specific instance where this person lost their life, I believe they were milling down material that was either from the stalks or excess shake, and when you're milling down something or grinding down something to that extent, you have an insane amount of pollen. I mean, within minutes, if you're not wearing, face covering, anything like that, you are completely covered in pollen on the outside. So imagine what the inside of your lungs look like when it is that severe. So it's food for thought, man. I can't support companies that don't have the foresight to make sure that their employees are properly taken care of. That's something that I'm learning with more time in this industry on the corporate side of it, that there's just so many people willing to do the bare minimum for their operators, and it's infuriating. Most of the people that work for these MSOs are in some way the backbone of what needs to be done, and it still bothers me. So sorry to go off on that rant there, but yeah.
There are definitely shitholes in a lot of these places. They only are reactionary. So like, they don't want to be.
Absolutely.
They only react to horrible incidents, and they never try to, their safety is not very big at a lot of these places where they fake it, have people click through their training. Come on. So it's sad. I forgot about that actually. So yeah, they're leaving Massachusetts. Who knows what's going to come from that? A lot of people think, who knows? I mean, the cards could fall. That would be crazy, right? I mean, who knows, man? Probably not though. They're wanting to go wreck in Florida, and so we like Circle K hot dogs. So
Yeah, but that's the start of, I've seen bigger companies fail, and so I don't think any company is too big to fuck itself over.
yeah,
Not in this space, we're just simply not there yet. Which is probably a good thing, because then you have company, if companies like that become like on the level of like Philip Morris or whatever the fuck, as an example of a conglomerate giant in an industry that it fucking manipulates and basically owns. You don't want that for medical cannabis, adult cannabis, period. So I'm looking forward to new round of licensees. I mentioned last time that I actually have a list, which honestly, I probably pull it up within this episode or the next one. I'll look here to the side within conversation and see if I can get it. But what I know from experience and what I've mentioned, I'm excited for these new applicants to come in because it's only going to raise the bar. You're not going to get a lot of the same old shit. There's a lot of people that are licensed essentially or co-branding on collaborations with existing companies and people who know what the fuck they're doing. So like it's going to make it hard for companies that do the bare minimum to exist. And I truly look forward to that.
it's gonna be interesting. I mean, when I'm in Colorado, I feel like once you start running around enough, you start to notice the same 20 or 30 companies on everyone's menu. So,
Yeah. Colorado's yeah.
but obviously different setup there because people are retailers. But you can see and that's like Florida. You just have to go to the actual store. It's really whack. Fuck Florida. What a joke.
I know, but since we're making a whole podcast about Florida, I
Not the
guess.
state, just the medical marijuana. I love the state.
I know, I'm just fucking with you.
The medical marijuana program. I mean, 22 more licenses will make it better, though. I mean, but then again, like you said, between the rushing to market, and it's going to be a shit show.
Yeah, actually, I got a lot of messages about that, about the insight on that and all that. Let's just say I know a lot of people that are currently doing shit there. And I happily consult, for anyone that's trying to make a better difference. So, yeah, expect some change, hopefully for the better. That's really all I can say. And if the adult use hits, like, honestly, I don't know. It's just weird to talk about, us jumping to adult use after 6 years and them just completely axing out home grows.
Yeah, they were like, no one can grow boof at home but the companies.
That's the thing. Like, some of the best weed in the world that I've smoked came from Legacy Market, Florida. Yeah, dude. Small craft Legacy fucking Market, Florida, dude. Some of the and
Some
then
of that
certain timelines. Like, don't get me wrong, dude. There's some shit out in Cali and Colorado that respectively is its own fire, but like, there's
no, but you're right though. There used to be some.
Just some like the Bubba that came around, the Northern Lights, the Rhino, the Russian, the Bubblegum, the Mango, the Black Haze, the Sour Diesel that would come down from New York, and then eventually that cut just made its way down, and then they started crushing it out there along with the Northern Lights. They ran a lot of Northern Lights, number 5, number 3. God, I feel like I'm missing a
I
couple.
just had some of that from somebody in Florida, actually.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it's stupid fire if it's the right one.
I think it was number 5.
The triangle for sure. Fucking what else, man? Like I can't even tell you. There's uh the Crippy for sure. You know the Crippy was a big one for a long, long time.
But then there was people that would just call good weed crippy too, right?
Yeah, yeah, but there was that distinction. Like I was fucking with growers. I wasn't fucking with people that sold packs. So the only
Yeah.
people that I fucked with that did that were people that were West Coast plugs. But initially, most of the stuff I was fucking with in my youth like that was all like Florida first stuff. There used to be this shit called like Green Alien or something, which I feel like honestly it was like relabeled green crack. If I really think back on it, on like what it was probably like green crack for sure. But dude, it was fucking
When was that? The early 2010s, late 2000s?
no, like 2001, 2000, something like that. Like yeah, like literally right after Y2K, bro. Fuck, I'm old.
Damn, I wish the computers would have reset that day.
I know. My I had to throw my computer out.
Imagine if the Earth was only 23 years old.
I know. That'd be kind of cool. It wouldn't be as
Maybe it
fun.
is. But anyway, shit's fucked up. No, I don't know.
Mm.
I know John Morgan said if they legalize marijuana, they're not going to care about someone growing plants, but I think they will. So, I mean, I would just, just do it anyway, guys. Fuck it. Buy
What's
my
the
grow tent in
saying?
my bio. No, I'm just checking. I'm just kidding. But,
But not
I
really.
mean, you're not hurting nobody by popping some fucking seeds. I mean, no one's telling you to, I don't know.
Dude, you know how I feel about that shit. Like, I think lives are more important than laws, in the sense of what we're talking about here with medical cannabis and more specifically the patients. Like, Oregon, you can grow 4 plants. While that's a dog shit count, if you can be a caregiver for up to 4 people, 3 people plus yourself, that's 12 plants, like whatever, figure it out. There's ways to implement that into the system. If you need more than 12 plants to figure shit out, then go somewhere else and do what you're going to do. You know what I'm saying? Because people like that are the people that are going to ruin. And that's let me touch up on that actually, because a lot of people don't know this, and maybe like our Florida listeners aren't as well traveled or don't have an idea. But in most states, most medical programs from the very inception, there's the idea of the caregiver, essentially, the caregiver model, which is essentially a patient grower who helps, takes care of, procure, collect, distribute, or donate medicine to other patients who possibly maybe can't grow it themselves. Or, a caregiver could be like, for example, for a couple of the kids in Colorado, I had multiple cards essentially. And so did any parent that had a child that under the age of 18 that had a medical license. And the way that works is, Billy and Jimmy and John and Sally and Susie can't go into the dispo. Some of them you could, like the ones that were like OG about the cause, they didn't give a fuck. They let you pull in with it. And that's that was before rec. And I respected that immensely because that's what this shit was about. As it got closer to recreational hitting, it got more like, oh, hey, we're going to get fined. We can't do that. So what my point is, if you are the parent of a underage medical patient, you have to assign someone to be a caregiver. So on the card for the child, it'll be, say the child's name, et cetera, the address, all that. But then it'll say, attention, caregiver, and then that will be your information or whomever is assigned as the caregiver. That caregiver goes into the stores technically where you're only either, allowed because you're a patient, but most places were at least 18 or over without exception. and if you're under the age, you have to have your caregiver come in for you. So that was sort of like the weird rule around that, right? Okay. So now that I've explained that, from every state to Washington, California, Oregon, Colorado, right? Let's stop there. The caregiver program has been used and abused. And like, now I'm going to sound like a hater of the legacy market, but let me explain the difference between a legacy market and what I'm talking about now before I get further into the point. The legacy market existed well before this caregiver program, or the idea of people hiding traps behind the caregiver model because it was convenient. And some states were looser, where you're like, some states you could have 99 plants as a patient, as a caregiver, or you as a patient could get an extended plant count of under 100 plants. And you as a caregiver could collect multiple patients with 99 plant counts. You see where I'm going with this? So if you're actually and there's certain cases where, like, if you are going through a rare cancer, you're going to need to rock 99 plants simply for oil production. Like, you could probably save 12 of those plants for flour, have a couple of pounds, but the real medicine is going to come from processing all of those plants into what will probably maybe be like less than a year's supply worth of oil. And when you're living day to day and that's what your shit is, that's cheaper to do that than to buy it at 50 a gram from the dispensary, because that would literally put you at some people put you at a house and home paying that much for it.
I mean, some people that want to do RSO therapy, that's like, they need ounces of material. It might not be the best example, but there's people trying to buy that gram by gram right now in the Florida market. It's fucked up.
Yeah, when you're supposed to be working yourself dosage up to a gram a day plus a gram plus, depending on, the more here's the thing. People will say work up to a gram. As a patient who's had to do it myself and someone who's like watched, you're going to hit a point where your body won't be able to uptake a certain amount. You want to pretty much get right to under that point, depending on what you're fighting or what you're using it for, to get the maximum anti-cancer effect, essentially, right? That could be a lot for a lot of different people, and everyone's threshold is different. So with RSO, you can't hit it all at once, because if you make yourself sick off of the medicine that you need to take daily, your body's going to act in not the same way that you would want it to, So they say start with a grain of rice, work your way from a grain of rice to a pea, from a pea to a bigger pea, from a pea to two peas, from a pea to a blueberry, and so on and so forth. And I'm using those, those vegetables and fruits as examples, for size reference, and grain, rice. But that's essentially how we would tell people to do it back in the day. Obviously that's, you swap that out with milligrams, which is the same effect. You just raise the dosage casually. But if you were to if somebody who has that diagnosis and has never, ever fucked with cannabis before, and they want to get the same medicinal effects, they have to sort of tough through it and really sort of cycle it, fairly quickly into themselves, and then consistently keep up with it. CBD and THC are not like fucking cure-alls like they're all pitched out to be, Sometimes the wrong amounts, or not taking enough or taking too much, can make things worse. So this is where it's up to you to educate yourself, figure out what's best for you, and stop blaming, the ignorance of not understanding the medicine you're taking on the effects that you're not getting, or understanding why things are the way they are. But where was I before that little rant?
Talking about just the abuse of the caregiver model, and
thank you,
how it's
all right,
how it turned in from kids' parents going into the dispensary
to the
fucking Florida
traps.
Senators crying about diversion and fucking Cuban cartels.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to knock it, dog, because my family came from that, like before it was ever like a different thing. So what I was explaining, and thank you, I remember, the difference between a legacy market and what I'm talking about with assholes hiding behind the caregiver model is that market existed well before that legacy market existed, that black market existed, well before people could hide behind a medical program to do what they're doing. Now, it's America. I hate what the government's done and how they treat this plant. So for someone to make a profit off of creating a brand and doing right and creating amazing flavors, like amazing products, wonderful medicine for people to enjoy on any level, from a medicinal to a connoisseur level, get it, dog. Get it, my homies. I want you to make all the fucking bread. But there's a way to do that and not like abuse how people like myself, other people, other caregivers that like, especially like people that were growing for people that just couldn't grow for themselves. They really took the hit on that one, man. They really did. You know, the cartels came in, or what they would call cartels, groups of individuals of the same color, you know, in a place where there's not a lot of people of that color. I'm not going to get more specific than that, but you can fucking figure it out. You know, essentially being a scapegoat for what really they wanted to push towards rec, and, you know, try to end the extended plan counts for individual patients and the caregiver program for multiple patients, and forcing people to get licenses, essentially. So, you know, that was a loop around getting a license, because if you had X amount of patients, you were also allowed certain extraction. I can't remember specifically. Certain states are real loose about it. And there's certain states where you could like really, you know, if you're making bubble hash, it wasn't the end of the world because you're showing that you're processing this into something for your patient. And there's actually certain states that had written amounts of like, this will not be more than or less than what the patient receives for growing this amount of plants for this or whatever, you know, which if the state says you're only getting 2 ounces per harvest and you're like, hey, here's 8 to 12 ounces of all the different flavors in the garden. There's RSO oils from, you know, the indicas, the sativas, the hybrids for you to, you know, try and experiment with. There's all of, the rosin that we made. There's food grade that we made that's raw. We've made edibles for you. We've taken, you know, that's the thing. I started my company talking to people individually and then making products based on like what I thought would help them best. I didn't sit there and like try to make a bunch of amazing products to then fill the SKU or brand to sell, you know? So I don't know. I personally take a lot of, I don't know, dog. I'm really sour about it, you know? Like part of me is like, yeah, you know, like what I said, I'm glad people got their bread, but I respected the people like, the dudes that found those seeds in that biker weed that went to that Grateful Dead show, and, you know, Chem Dog became a thing out of that. Yeah, they weren't hiding behind a caregiver model. They were fucking doing it, you know? Shout outs to those boys. You think the Cubans were waiting for a fucking medical program to be growing the haze and all that shit down here? Absolutely not. You think, Matt with the Bubba or fucking, you know, the Trump, like, dude, nope, absolutely not. And I have a lot of respect for people in that legacy market because a lot of those dudes are making moves in this market now in some way or another, you know, or have moved on to prosper and create successful brands or, you know, whatever it is. And they did that without hiding behind any models. So I kind of think you're a pussy if you did that. 100%. I'm just going to say it, you know, like while I got nothing against the trap, like, everything I just mentioned about people did what they did in a situation where they were fucking doing what they were doing, you know? And they didn't have to hide behind certain things because they were smart enough to just keep their fucking mouth shut to begin with, you know? So a lot of those people that still exist today, they weren't people that were taking mad pictures for IC Grow Mag and what was the other one? Overgrow. If you're old enough to know what the fuck I just said, those were the pre-Instagrams essentially for what growers were doing. And most of the dudes were taking like Polaroids or like really shitty, like first generation digital camera pictures, to share essentially what they're doing. And a lot of those dudes are still around to this day, and doing things, which is crazy. But I have,
magazines and the forums.
yeah, dude, the shit goes way back, right? I remember being in middle school reading those fucking forums and being like, oh my God, I'm going to do that one day,
Right.
And I don't know. It's upsetting to me that like so many states leaned away from that. Like even Michigan now, they're in danger of losing theirs. And it kills me. I Michigan, every time I go over there, excuse me, every time I go over there, it's one of those things where it's just like it makes me feel like I was back in Cali and like uh, in the early 2000s. Like it was just one of those things that felt amazing, and I love there's this big social aspect to it, that they have, and a lot of history with things like Hash Bash, and like I love that so much that it makes me it breaks my heart for how much California has changed, because at a time when I was there, and Colorado too, it's like uh, it's just like a certain time and a place. Hunter S. Thompson talks about that specifically, about being alive in certain times in certain places, and more specifically like seeing the very beginning of certain sides of like how that market started to expand medically, and how people started to market from it, and what was allowed in one state and what wasn't. It's been a crazy fucking ride, man. I just, it hurts me that caregiver model is in danger. So when you have new states that go live with medical, or that try to progress towards having home grows, I know, and this has been a huge wraparound point I'm about to drop, I know Florida is not with giving us home grows because of, them watching the same, cartels in other states, et cetera, and blah, blah, blah. And it's not a good look. And I don't know if they want to necessarily deal with the fact that people are going to try to be shitty and like hide behind that. I think everyone should have the right to do it. I don't necessarily feel like people should be governed. Like whether you have 12 or 24 plants as your business, you could be growing for a family member. You could be growing for, I don't know how many plants it's going to take you. Also, here's the thing. Not everyone who grows is going to be great at it, no matter whether you grow the best seed or not. So more often than not, you're probably going to need more plants to start with. And like, even if you're completely growing your shit until you get a cycle, or you know how to manage your flower, and you're not smoking it all before your next harvest and blah, 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 and all this shit, you're probably still going to go to the dispensary for a variety of reasons. One, you're going to need something in between the time that your shit's ready, like most patients. Let's talk generalizations, not people that are plugged into traditional methods. But also, if you'll use it as a grading point, you'll go and find good flower that you like from places that you fuck with, and you'll start to compare, where your flower is on that sort of level, and try to, connect the dots to obviously do better. And it could be the other way around. You could crush it the first time around, go to the dispensary, buy an eighth, look at this, and laugh and be like, I'm never going to do this again. And that's what they're afraid of. But that takes a lot of time. You're going to get 1 in 100 people that are going to do that and knock it out of the time the first time. Like, dude, not everyone's going to go to a place, pop a bunch of seeds, do the first harvest, do the first extraction, and then like go and win a cannabis cup. And I'm going to say it that way because the people that listen to that will probably laugh their ass off if they know, but it's very hard to do. And I don't recommend people do that, because then you got to follow the hype, which is even harder. But also, I don't know. Imagine, local grow-offs in Florida, like competitions based off of your grow, I think the way that Florida is, it's really easy to tell whether, like, if a dude were to bring some weed that he said he grew it, and it looks like there was shit was flown out from Northern California, you're going to be able to tell based on the cure alone, right? Because curing weed in Florida is so fucking hard and difficult. It's like the opposite of Colorado or some places, because you have so much humidity in the air. So you really have to, if you're not fully temperature controlled and doing it, the way you should in a facility, you're going to have a rough time. It's really a labor of love. There are people that crush it. Don't get me wrong. I will smoke. I vouch to this day. I've traveled the world essentially and smoked weed and hash, and home team still has some of the best flower, hands down. So that's not favoritism. That's just, it is what it is. You're doing beyond organic, putting in veganic inputs into things, putting your love into things. Love shows through products. That loss of love is definitely apparent in the corporate world of cannabis. That's something that if I was in a position to change collaboratively or in any way, I would. I mean, you guys would know it. I would never shut the fuck up about it, and I would make sure that I would drop products that would easily shit on anything else in the state. And I say that respectfully, but
damn.
Yeah, it's dude, it's one of those things where it's like you get so upset about it, you shut up about it for a while, because no one wants to listen to the angry guy talk about how, like, y'all motherfuckers fucked all that shit up for caregivers. You're gonna hear a completely different side of me come out if I keep going. But
no, it's cool, but it's true though. And then, like, we have it here in Florida, but it's not that. It just means they can go get it for you or accept delivery.
Yeah, which is cool too, don't get me wrong. But you got I think it's fucked up that you have to pass the same background check that you do to work in that facility. You have to pass a level 2 federal background check to be a caregiver. Like, what?
Yeah, we just saw that roll out from the from the OMMU or whatever, which is crazy. So
you got to do the same thing to work in any of those facilities. Why is that even a thing if it's not coming with the responsibility of taking care of plants? As a patient yourself, you should. I just think that's so ridiculous. I don't understand why that's even a thing.
There must have been some bullshit going on, or somebody was having. I don't know. I'm sure if there was a fucking
logically
case that happened.
From someone who's had to do it in multiple states, logically, what I can think is the only people that come out on top are the agencies that are running the checks. Like, yeah, it's going to swamp them, but those come at like anywhere from like $90 to $100+ a piece for those background checks, even more in some states.
Yeah, you're right, and it's Florida, so someone probably owns one of those companies.
Yeah, dude, and that's fucked up. It always like, man, these motherfuckers don't trust anyone. No, dude, I'm just telling you how I see it. Like truly, it's like, okay, logistically, why would you do that? He's not okay. You can say that maybe you have to pass a background check to prove character because you're going to be handling meds for someone, but if you're going to treat it that way, then allow that same caregiver to grow 6 plants for that patient. If you're going through the trouble of doing that, which is fucked up to say, like, yeah, all right, now imagine this. They say, okay, you can have a home grow, but you have to pass a level 2 federal background check. And if you fail it, you can't grow.
I mean,
how do you feel about that? Like, I can't imagine, because if they're going to do some ass backwards shit like that, what if they literally say, okay, you can have a license for a home grow, providing that you have it okayed in your lease to do so. Boom, that's going to cause a whole nother bunch of shit there. The plus is, you'll have people no longer stealing power from FP&L or whatever the fuck, so they'll just be paying their ridiculous fucking light bills like normal people and not have to worry about it, which is great. The problem, I think, too, is just like, if let's say they say, okay, you have to pass X amount, you have to be non-violent crime, whatever the fuck. You know how many people that's gonna
Dude, but they throw that level 2
exclude.
shit around like nothing, so they probably would try to do some fuck shit like that. I never
They
even thought
would.
about that. That could take a decent citizen initiative petition for home grow that would be successful, and Florida legislature could throw that in and just fucking derail it, bro.
We
Which
should
is crazy.
we
I
should
mean,
start a company that takes bets on these cannabis predictions.
it's better than betting on,
On sports. Oh God.
Hungarian ping pong at 12 a.m.
Or anything, yeah, really. Like, dude, I've been watching the finals, and like the thing I'm noticing after not watching sports for a long time, because I have some downtime out actually, so I can watch the Heat. Actually, do that, which is dope.
Bread and circuses.
Yeah, no, it's bro. There's an insane amount of marketing for gambling these days, and how normalized gambling is into
The normal life
sports.
again.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so, because it was like that before we were born. You know, that was way
Yeah.
more
Gambling, yeah.
Yeah. I've never saw the point in it, but I see how a lot of people are like truly addicted to that shit, and like I
It's
don't know,
crazy.
it's really weird, you know.
It would be cool to take cannabis bets though somehow, like on companies and things like that. It's pretty interesting and funny.
We'll have to play with that idea, and if someone fucking takes it, God help you, we'll find you,
No, we will,
and
but
we'll have a conversation. So you know what that sound means?
oh,
Actually, I forgot. No, and I remember. So it means that's the end of the episode. I usually thank people at the beginning for supporting us, but we had a hilarious outtake at the beginning that you probably won't hear, but it was super funny. So I forgot to mention it. But thank you so much for listening in, to everyone that's honestly listened in or given us any sort of feedback, good, bad, whatever. We really want to hear from you guys. If there's anything that you'd like to hear, if there's anything that you like, don't like, come on, just hit us with it. We're big boys. We could take it. But you can hit us up and follow us at Square Grouper Podcast on Instagram. If you want to catch what we're up to on Instagram, you can follow my co-host at Florida Trees News on Instagram. If you'd like to check out what I'm doing, you can follow me at Foxtrax_ or at Foxtrax in the Wild for all the hash pictures and random shit I'll post whenever. Again, thank you guys so much for listening. We are currently lining up some fun things for interview formats that we'll be working on over the course of some time. So maybe stay tuned for that. I'll be down in Florida next month, so I'm currently planning for that trip. Maybe, who knows? Maybe plan a little Square Grouper social of sorts. Who fucking knows?
be careful.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. I don't know.
Yeah, if you want to hang out, you better show up in July. That's all I gotta say.
Yep. But yeah. We'll bring slaps, so come through. So on that note, guys, thank you so much for listening. This has actually been a fun late night episode. Stay tuned, and we'll have more fun shit for you. And like I said, thanks again. Have a good night, everyone.